All right. Hi, everybody. Come on in. Feel free to join us. We have our next speaker starting right now. So please welcome to the stage from AWS talking about Amazon Lex, Yasser El-Hagan. I'll cheer for you. Ready? Yay, Yasser! Woohoo! Come on in.
All right, thank you very much. So today I'll be talking to you guys about Amazon Connect and Amazon Lex and how we can integrate the two to create a customer service experience for contact centers. One of the business things we were trying to solve for one of our customers was they had a ride scheduling service where their customers would call in and ask for the status of their scheduled ride. And to do that, they would talk to their agents, and a lot of agent time was wasted giving them very simple information. So we walked the customer through how to build a self-service application to where a customer can call in, provide some information about their ride. So for example, the trip ID and the scheduled date of their ride. And then Lex would be able to interact with that customer, give them those details, and if needed, the customer can still ask to talk to an agent, and we can send all that context back to the agent so that the agent can see what did the customer say in the IVR and have that entire contextual experience so that they don't have to ask the customer again for all the details. So what you're looking at here is Amazon Connect, and this is a contact flow. And essentially a contact flow is what tells Amazon Connect what to do with an incoming call. So I can walk you through this flow, and then I'll walk you through the Lex chatbot, and then I'll actually demonstrate the experience for you as well. So in this flow, one of the things that we're doing is setting the voice for text-to-speech, and we have this get customer input block, which essentially tells the system what question or what thing to play back to the customer. So here I can tell the caller, thanks for calling the ride assistance service. You can say things like check my ride status or schedule a new ride. When the customer starts speaking back, Lex is going to take this input and start interacting with the customer. And we can do that by sending this input to the Lex chatbot. Once that happens, I can then decide and understand the intent of the customer. So are they calling to check the ride status? Are they calling to book a new ride? And I can branch accordingly. So I get back the intent in my flow, and I can branch to decide what I want to do with this call going forward. In this example, once I understand that the customer is asking to check the ride status, I can do certain things like set the attribute of the ride ID, the scheduled date, invoke a Lambda function to go talk to my database and bring back all the information about that ride, and then play a custom prompt back to the caller that gives them all the details about their scheduled trip. So here, these are all variables that come back from my Lambda function that allow me to have a completely dynamic text-to-speech script that I can read back to the caller. And I'm going to demonstrate how all this works. That's a little bit about Connect. Let me talk to you a little bit about Lex. So this is the interface where in Amazon Lex, you can create a chatbot. The concepts of the chatbot are fairly simple. You have an intent, which means what is it that I'm trying to do, or what is it that the caller's intent is. And then you have utterances. Utterances are what are the things that a customer might say or a caller might say to mean this intent. So for example, I have a ride status intent, and I have these different utterances that let me understand if somebody says, I want to check the status of my ride, or check my ride, or get status. All those things get me to the ride status intent. I can also do some intelligent things by collecting that understanding that when somebody says, for example, I want to check my ride status for trip ID 5117. The bot will be intelligent enough to know that you've already provided me the trip ID of 5117 and not ask for it. Versus if I simply said, I want to check the status of my ride, it will know to ask for the trip ID and ask for the scheduled date. So I can demonstrate this for you. Here I have the trip ID and the scheduled trip date as slots that are essentially, a slot is additional information that I'm looking for. In Amazon Lex, I can actually test my chatbot right within this UI. So let me demonstrate that for you. Here, I can test and see how the bot would react. So I can say something like, I'd like to check the status of my ride. And the chatbot will ask me for the trip ID. And when I give it the trip ID of 5117, sorry, I mistyped that, 5117, it'll ask me for the scheduled date. So which date is your ride? It can understand things like tomorrow, next Saturday, the 17th of December. I can take all these different inputs, and the AI model behind the chatbot will understand these things. So for example, if I said next Saturday, it will know that next Saturday is the 9th of December. So I can say these different things. I can say Christmas Day. It'll understand all these different inputs as far as a date. So this is a confirmation prompt, and here if I say, yes, this is correct, it'll then go and grab that information and give it back to me. So this is a quick way that I can test test the chatbot. Another thing I can do is I could say something like, I'd like to check the status of my ride with trip ID 5117. So notice here, it doesn't ask me for the trip ID anymore. It knows that I've already provided it the trip ID of 5117, and it only asks me the additional information. So when you think about creating natural experiences for your callers in your contact center, you want to be able to account for these different things. Some customers might know, okay, I can provide the trip ID. Other customers might not know that and just simply say, I want to check the status of my ride. So you can account for these different things so that you don't create such a robotic experience. You can create a natural, dynamic experience for your callers. Another thing I'd like to point out is if you notice here a list of utterances that I give, I don't have to think of every different way that somebody might ask this question. I simply give the chatbot a few examples of what somebody might say, and there's an entire AI model behind this that figures out similar things that somebody might say that mean the same thing. So I don't have to sit here and actually give it all the different examples, just a few examples. All right, so let me actually demonstrate this for you. One thing that I'm doing here is, this is actually let me step back real quick. So this is Amazon Connect, and this is the soft phone that the Amazon Connect service uses. In case you guys don't know what Amazon Connect is a new service that we launched, and it's a cloud-based contact center as a service offering, where it's a 100% cloud-based solution for contact center. There's nothing to install, telephony is included, you pay per minute, you don't pay for simultaneous agent license and so forth. The way that agents interact with the service is they use this contact control panel, which is essentially a soft phone. It's WebRTC, nothing to install, it's just all web-based. This contact control panel has an API that allows you to interact and send information in and out of that contact control panel. So what I've done here is I've integrated the contact control panel in a custom application that I've built for this agent. So in this scenario that I'm going to walk you through, I'm going to call in, I'm going to pretend to be a customer calling to check for the status of my ride, and I'm going to handle that entire experience in a self-service application where I don't really need to even talk to an agent. At the end of the interaction, I'll ask and say, I'd like to speak to an agent just to show you the types of things that I can do. And I'm going to send that entire self-service experience that I did in the chatbot to the agent so that the agent has context about what I've already done in the IVR. So that's essentially our demonstration. All right? It's a little bit noisy in here, but we actually usually do pretty well with the noise, so we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to call in. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
Welcome to the Ride Assistance Service. You can say things like, check my ride status or schedule a new ride.
I'd like to check the status of my ride with trip ID 5117.
Got it. And what's the date for your scheduled trip?
Next Saturday.
Okay, just to confirm, you would like me to look up the trip details for trip ID 5117, scheduled for the 9th of December 2017. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, here you go. You are scheduled to be picked up from 1111 Test Drive Road at 2 p.m. You will be dropped off at 2222 Bring It Home Court. How else can I help you? You can say things like, change my ride, get a text confirmation, or I'm done.
I'd like to talk to an agent.
Thank you for calling. Your call is very important.
Okay? So here you can say I asked for an agent, and the agent screen automatically updates. And not only do I get the call and I get the phone number passed to me, I get the entire context of what the customer said in the IVR, back and forth between what the caller said and what the bot responded back with as full context for the agent. So think about the experience I'm creating here. As an agent answering the call, I already know everything that's happened in the IVR, and I don't have to re-ask the customer, why did you call, what were you trying to do? And this is just the way that I formatted this feedback. And I can even show other attributes like the entire call information, what the actual trip ID was, the trip date, and so forth. So think of what you could do with something like this. You could pre-populate a CRM form. You could pre-populate all sorts of things that the agent would no longer have to do. I can send contextual information back to the agent. And now I'm creating this experience where as the agent's answering the phone, I already know what the customer was trying to do to create a better customer experience. Okay? So I'll walk you through again and when I called in here, I already gave it the trip ID of 5117 and it only asked me for the date. Whereas if I call again and don't give it the date, the trip ID.
Welcome to the Ride Assistance Service. You can say things like check my ride status or schedule a new ride.
I'd like to check the status of my ride.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
I'd like to check the status of my ride.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Check ride status.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Okay, it's not behaving itself on the second time here.
Welcome to the Ride Assistance Service. You can say things like check my ride status or schedule a new ride.
I'd like to check the status of my ride.
Sorry, can you please repeat
Oh,
that?
I'm muted, sorry. I'd like to check the status of my ride.
What is the trip ID for your scheduled ride?
5117.
Got it. And what's the date for your scheduled trip?
Next Sunday.
Okay, just to confirm, you would like me to look up the trip details, the trip ID, 5117.
So you get the point, right? So I called in, I didn't give it any additional information, and it asked me for that feedback. Note to self, don't mute your phone when you're trying to talk to a chatbot. So hopefully you guys get the idea here. And again, this was the flow to show how I can, once I identify that I have the ride status, I can pass contextual information as variables back from the Lex chatbot. So for example, here I had the slot of trip ID and trip date as slots in Lex that it collected that information. In Amazon Connect, from a contact center perspective, I can pass that information to the contact center as a variable so that I could do something with it later. So here I said, collect the trip ID from Lex slots trip ID. Same thing with trip date. And here I even collect the entire transcript back from Lex. And then when I invoke my Lambda function, I can pass the trip ID and the trip date so that this prompt can be auto-populated. Okay, and that's our demonstration. Thank you very much.